You are listening to the Two and Out CFL podcast, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
I can't believe he called you a...
Grab some poutine and a double-double. It's time for the Two and Out CFL podcast.
Now they have to kick it out, and they do!
Every week, Travis Currah.
Does anybody still care about this podcast?
And Brazilian Ty.
Hunters are people, too.
Talk fantasy football, bring you the latest in CFL news, and sprinkle in a little bit of nonsense.
Are you kidding? This is unbelievable!
Ready, set, hunt!
And we are part of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown, community supported. I'm Travis Currah. Brazilian Ty is back. And Ty, we haven't done it for a while. I think we should go to the reviews.
I'm tired of being harassed, for one thing.
Okay.
Every time I'm not on the show.
This is from Apple Podcasts. Tim Reimer titles entertaining. You wonder why? Why we listen? Because your surprising, dry humor and sarcasm is stupidly refreshing while covering all of our favorite teams. Look at that.
I'm assuming that's for me, because I don't find you hilarious at all.
Oh, you... From
that might be your first angry elk of the year.
From Wally Walker, a great CFL podcast. I love this show, but I don't know why.
That seems to be a recurring theme.
Yeah, I like it. And from Jamie T, fantastic show. What can I say about this show that hasn't already been said? Two smart, knowledgeable hosts. One's great, the other is kind of... They play off each other well to create an entertaining hour of CFL content.
I can't believe he called you a...
How did I know that you were going to take that side? And Ty, we got a mailbag question from the website, twoandout.ca. Of course, you can visit and do that as well. It's from Bill. I just want to throw it to you. You post the fantasy preview and the recap every week. What do those numbers mean is what he's asking. And I think this is good information for everyone.
To be honest, I don't even know.
So basically, you have taken the player's career on the CFL Fantasy website, and then you put up the average of the points per game, and then you update it for that coming week, and say it's Andrew Harris versus Edmonton. You look at his historical performance against Edmonton, so that's the second column, and then it goes opponent points / all. What's that one mean? That
is what their opponent is allowing against that specific position group. So what the defense is allowing against running backs, wide receivers. I mean, the wide receiver numbers are obviously inflated because, sometimes you have 70 points and there's 7 or 8 different receivers. But when the running back gets receptions, that still counts under the running back stats.
Right.
So it's just specifically the wide receivers.
There you go. Thanks for sending in that question, Bill. Of course, you can as well at twoandout.ca. This episode of Two and Out is brought to you by the Alberta Association of Optometrists, proudly celebrating a century of caring for Albertans. It happens. 1 in 4 school-aged kids has a vision problem, yet 80% of learning is visual for a child. That's why booking family eye exams with an optometrist helps ensure learning success. You can't detect hidden eye problems, but your optometrist can. Alberta health coverage towards annual eye exams is available until your child's 19th birthday. Book your family's eye exam today at optometrists.ab.ca. The Alberta Association of Optometrists represents almost 800 doctors of optometry in over 80 communities across Alberta. Members are highly trained, regulated health professionals who provide primary eye health and vision care to Albertans. Learn more at optometrists.ab.ca.
Join 2 and Out for CFL Fantasy and CFL Pick'em and show Currah and Ty what you got.
They are who we thought they were.
Just click CFLFantasy.tsn.ca
Enough of talking about it. There has to be consequences.
and Pick'em.cfl.ca.
All right, I can't quite believe it, Ty, but here we are, week 7 of the CFL season. It is just flying by right now, and it's a doubleheader on Friday and Saturday. We start at Tim Hortons Field. The Hamilton Tiger Cats, as of right now, 2.5-point favorites over the Calgary Stampeders.
They're only half a point favorite now.
Oh, that updated, did it?
So that's a waste of a line move. It's now a pick 'em because you cannot push half a point. I don't even know why they changed that.
I locked in at the Stampeders plus 2.5. I got to be honest, I'm pretty happy with that.
That's probably the bet of the year.
Okay, I'm not that confident.
Unless you got Shohei Ohtani at plus 3,500 for AL MVP.
The over-under for this one set at 40.5. Here's why I'm leaning towards the Stampeders right now. Of course, things could change, and they probably have changed. By the time you hear this recording, it doesn't appear that Brandon Banks hasn't practiced yet this week. I'm guessing it all stems from that massive hit on Labor Day.
Yep.
He got hammered. But it's just the entire receiving core for the Ticats pretty inexperienced with the starters that they've had to go out there with lately.
Yeah, and I mean, Brandon Banks, like you said, hasn't practiced Monday or Tuesday, and it's ribs. So that's the only part of the game I can remember where that could have been an issue. And then you talk about experience. I mean, Pappy White, Stephen Dunbar Jr., they've both had some big games, and they're averaging over 10 points this season in their rookie years, and there's not a lot of experience there. DeVere Posey and Braylon Addison have both practiced this week, although be it limited. Jalen Acklin is available at 9.1 career average, 6 points per game against Calgary, but I mean, it's like there's just not that, that calming influence, I guess you could say, in that receiving core right now.
Also, who knows what we're going to see at quarterback for the Cats on Friday night. Last week, Dane Evans, he ends up coming up in quite a bit of pain. The MRI says he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. The injury report says it is his oblique. Now, previously they did say Jeremiah Mazzoli would be available for this game against Calgary. Now they're saying he's on a bit of a pitch count. They want to save him for Friday night against the Stampeders. So David Watford, as of Tuesday, was seeing most of the reps at practice. This might be one of those situations where we got to wait until the depth charts come out, or maybe this is a game-time decision thing for the Ticats, or maybe they're just messing with the Stampeders and Mazzoli is not good to go.
That could be completely possible, but I mean, what we've seen from Mazzoli early on in the year, it doesn't leave much for the Calgary Stampeders to be worried about, I don't think. And he's obviously not at 100%, and he's on a pitch count through practice through this week, but I mean, I don't see him, even getting close to his averages, just with the way that Calgary's defensive line can get to a quarterback, and if he's not healthy, they're not going to want to just throw him to the wolves. That offense with David Watford just isn't what it is with Dane Evans or Jeremiah Mazzoli. It's not as good. I don't think that's an argument that anybody can make that it is. So I just don't see how Calgary is the underdog here. Like, that line probably should have been taken off the board, but here we are.
And that's a great point with that Stampeders defensive line. If they were able to do what they were able to do against Edmonton, then I don't see how Hamilton, in the way their offensive line has been, is going to be able to handle them all that well. Stephen Banks showed up, dominated the Elks in the Labor Day rematch. He had 7 tackles, 3 sacks on the day. I think the Ticats offensive line's going to have their hands full.
Yes. And I mean, they've been moving guys around, and there's guys playing a little bit out of position or on the opposite side, and it just hasn't gone overly well. They've had some games where they've been able to protect the quarterback, but I mean, this Calgary defensive line, it's not Winnipeg, but they can still wreak a lot of havoc.
I wonder if the Ticats are even going to bother with the rushing game in in this
Sean
matchup.
Thomas Erlington didn't practice Tuesday.
Yeah.
So, were they going to throw Don Jackson in there or Jackson Bent? Like, nobody knows what's going on with that running back situation in Hamilton. It's almost like we're going back to the Kent Austin era. And I call it an era, but I mean, it was, 4 years ago?
I can't imagine picking any of those guys, to be honest. They really just haven't shown consistency. It just kind of seems like a waste of money.
Yeah, and I mean, Sean Thomas Erlington's career average is 7.6 points per game, and then against Calgary averages 6. But like we said, yeah, that defensive line can put pressure on a quarterback. Well, they can stop the run too. They disrupt a lot on that in that line play. So I mean, yeah, and just the way Hamilton's offense right now is going, it's just so pass heavy that trying to establish a run just hasn't happened.
I'm looking to see consistency from Bo Levi Mitchell on the Calgary Stampeders side. He comes back from injury against Edmonton, and in the first half still didn't look right. I don't know if it was him testing out the leg, being a little bit nervous, not having the timing down with his receivers. But in the second half, he just threw to Kamar Jordan every play.
Weird.
Which is remarkable because a short time ago, Kamar Jordan blew up his knee. He's been back performing to his ability. Seems like there's nothing wrong with that knee. And I want to see if they can start to figure out Markeith Ambles here. Ty against Edmonton, 17 targets, 5 catches.
Yep. Yeah, a little not the best game when you're looking at your catch percentage. He needs to figure something out. Maybe him and Bo just need to get on the same page a little more. With the time Bo has missed and the year off, that definitely doesn't help. I mean, nobody's going to be Kamar Jordan in that offense other than Kamar Jordan. Just, the sure hands, big target. I think on any play, I don't think it matters who the play is designed for. I think Bo's first thought is Kamar right now.
Yeah.
Or so it seems. But yeah, Markeith Ambles, 17 targets. I can't believe that the guy only has 5 catches and they keep going to him. That's what amazed me. Like,
yeah.
With that catch percentage, you keep going to him. I mean, sure, he is the other guy in that receiving core that Bo has the most experience with. With Hergy Mayala kind of in and out, but Kamar Jordan is going to get doubled, and he still makes the plays. So, 15.4 in his career, 12.8 against Hamilton, pretty decent average, maybe overpriced a little bit at that for those points, but 2 touchdowns totally, if he can get 2 touchdowns, it totally changes the outlook of his fantasy production.
And to be fair, the Calgary Stampeders also dealing with injury issues at the moment. Defensive back Jonathan Moxey did not practice on Tuesday. Neither did Josh Huff or Hergy Mayala. It appears that they're pretty confident that Moxey and Huff will be able to play. Mayala doesn't seem like he will. He's got a quad injury, and it was Tyson Middlemost practicing in his spot on Tuesday. Maybe it's going to be Ambles and Jordan getting another 25 targets or whatever it is in this one.
It very well could be. That being said, I don't see that being a bad thing for this Calgary offense. They still have Kadeem Carey out of the backfield when healthy. He can carry the workload if they're going to use him is the other issue. And if you're going to throw to Kamar Jordan and Markeith Hamble 25 times and Markeith isn't going to drop 12 of them, then you're looking at a pretty decent day.
By the way, if I do go directly to betregal.ca, the Stamps are still listed 2.5-point dogs. So,
yesterday on the TSN website, they had it at 0.5.
Yeah, by the time you hear this, it'll probably have changed again.
Yeah, the fact that the Stamps are underdogs with the Dane Evans news was just astounding to me.
Yeah, I agree with you there. All right, second half of the Friday Night Football doubleheader, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and I found this generous tie, 3.5-point favorites over the Toronto Argonauts, 43.5 points set at the over-under. What are you thinking on that line?
That you should probably jump on the Argos.
Actually, I find every matchup this week pretty intriguing. Now, Winnipeg and Edmonton, maybe the most lopsided one, considering how Edmonton has performed at Commonwealth Stadium this year. But I do believe they have the talent to compete. But the other three games this week, they could go either way. The Argos have not won in Regina since 2016. So they have not won at New Mosaic Stadium yet, but we got to talk about the elephant in the room. Your boy, Chris Jones, rumored to be back with the Toronto Argonauts. I think as of right now, the Argos haven't made a official announcement, but it does seem like maybe this is one of those things where it's the worst kept secret in the CFL, because if he's coming north, he's still got to do his quarantine and everything like that. But it appears that he has resigned from his job at
those kids in Tennessee at that Tennessee high school are the luckiest kids in the world.
Man, from what I see, they had 3 games postponed due to COVID, and then they had the 1 win. So they're 1-0 with Chris Jones as their head coach. But something going on in the Toronto front or coaching staff here with defensive coordinator Glenn Young disappearing, they're saying, due to personal reasons. You can only assume MLSE's vaccine mandate coming into effect, and you don't want to assume, but at least it does seem to be virus-related that they're not with the team right now, and maybe Chris Jones is coming in to fill some void in the defensive coaching staff.
No, don't as a defense. If he's going to be the defensive coordinator or a position coach on that defensive side of the ball, I think that's great for Toronto. They've got the bodies there. They've got the talent. And he is a good defensive coach. Does this kind of reek of if Ryan Dinwiddie doesn't, in a year, maybe it depends on Chris Jones' contract too, I guess. But, middle of next year, if they're, middling and they're only got 3 wins, they're 3-8, is he just a coach in waiting?
Jones worked with John Murphy before. They're familiar with each other.
I don't think they would do that to Dinwiddie this early on in his coaching tenure, but who knows what's going on in that front office.
Yeah, it was Josh Bell also taking a personal leave with that Argos coaching staff.
I also find it fishy that he would leave a high school job to just take on a coordinator or position coach job.
Or a consultant spot or whatever they're saying.
Yeah. I don't know.
So maybe this whole situation has me wondering how the defense is going to perform in Regina. Obviously, there's a lot of talent on the Toronto defense. It does seem that Rich Stubler will be calling the game against the Riders. He's been around the CFL for 60 years, so that's not...
Travis.
Okay, let's look at this. I don't even really think I'm exaggerating. It's got to be in the 50s, no?
It's got to be high 40s at least.
Okay, he was born in 1949, so 60 years is definitely an exaggeration. But his coaching career started with Roaring Fork High School in 1971. He made his debut in the CFL in 1983 with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. So he's definitely familiar with the Canadian Football League, Ty.
So just 38 years.
Yeah, that's it.
Wow. That's impressive.
The Argos have also signed Patrick Lavoie, the fullback there. This really intrigues me because you've seen the way that Toronto's been able to run the ball. They're running all over the place. There's all sorts of misdirection. There's DJ Foster. John White has looked good. And then they got Declan Cross that can throw blocks. And if they got Patrick Lavoie that can throw blocks, I don't think they're going to need to pass.
Well, not only, they're going to block, but they can also pass block.
Yeah,
and when you have the likes of Eric Rogers, the Daniels, and Ricky Collins Jr. In your receiving core, and you can give Nick Arbuckle a couple extra seconds or an extra second, that's a game changer.
Now, when we talk injuries, Saskatchewan is dealing with a lot right now.
And to some pretty important players.
Yeah, that's it. They're starters. They're not just depth guys. So there's a lot of tests happening for Saskatchewan right now. Now, on Tuesday, Cody Fajardo was seen working with the starters, but limited. It did seem that Isaac Harker was getting most of the reps at practice. We'll see how he is for Friday. It is a short week coming off the Banjo Bowl, Ty.
A little bit of a short week. He leaves the game with a concussion. That's been confirmed. We're not assuming. For him to be practicing already leads me to believe that, I shouldn't say it wasn't serious. It wasn't as bad as, some other concussions or some other injuries that we've seen. So that's somewhat of a good sign. I'm just hoping they're not rushing him back.
Yeah.
At the same time, I fully understand if they are rushing him back because you do not want Calgary to catch you.
Man, this West is...
It's not great other than Winnipeg.
Yeah.
People bitching and moaning about Saskatchewan dropping that far in the power rankings. Well, yeah, that makes complete and utter total sense. But everybody else is just that mushy middle, and then Calgary at the bottom.
Right.
Calgary's not out of it.
They're still the best coached team, or at least the top 2 or 3 in the CFL, and sometimes that will even out at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And they string 2 or 3 wins together in Saskatchewan here on a 2-game losing streak. Possibly could be 3 this week. That's totally different. It's a totally different looking West Division.
So safety Mike Edom ended up leaving the Banjo Bowl holding his wrist. Well, he was seen at practice with a cast on his arm, probably going to be out. Ed Gainey was not at practice again on Tuesday. Purifoy was. Now, Eli Buka drafted in 2016 for the Riders. I know a lot of Rider fans have hopes that he'd be able to start for the team. Get a Canadian in the secondary would be good for them, good for the ratio. I'm wondering if the Argos are going to... Yeah, I'm wondering if the Argos are going to try to test him a little bit there and go deep on the Riders pretty early.
I think you have to if you're Toronto. That secondary banged up. You got the likes of, Edom and Gainey out right now. It just kind of opens the door for somebody like Eric Rogers. Like I said, Eric Rogers, Tavares Daniels, Ricky Collins Jr. right now. You look at Edmonton with those names, maybe. I don't see, especially getting the red zone. Is there a better target than Eric Rogers right now?
I don't know. I don't think so.
And I really feel like Toronto's going to be able to move the ball on this defense because they're so banged up.
The Rough Riders have given up 10 completions of 30 yards or more. Yeah. That is the second most in the CFL. The Red Blacks,
Ottawa.
The Stamps, have given up 11. And Toronto's actually also given up 10 as well.
Well, maybe they didn't get better releasing Alden Darby.
Okay, that's something to mention because the Argos trade Alden Darby to the Bombers for an offensive lineman, Terry Poole. Yes. And Darby's been starting for Winnipeg. Poole just got released.
Yep.
So
of course he's not going to look great against Eric Rogers. What were you expecting?
Now, the Rider defense taking more hits. It seems that Garrett Moreno on the defensive line won't be able to play. He's got a knee injury. A.J. Hendy probably will be able to get in. A.C. Leonard obviously not going to play. The 2-game suspension, 1 remaining for not supplying the sample. It looks guilty. So he'd rather just go home for 2 games, I guess.
Can't prove it. But yeah, he probably would have failed.
It does appear that receiver Jordan Williams-Lambert will also miss this game with a wrist injury for Saskatchewan. I wonder if that opens up a spot again for Kean Schaefer-Baker, who might be my $2,500 player of the week.
And he's got 9.2 points per game in the games that he's gotten in and played in the offense. And they need these guys to come in and fill holes right now. You got Shaq Evans out, Jordan Williams-Lambert probably going to miss this game. They need guys to step up and take spots. And especially fantasy-wise, at $2,500, if he puts up, 9, 10, 11 points, you're laughing.
It's rough, actually, in the Rough Rider receiving core as far as depth goes.
It's not great. It is not great. It is the shallow end of the pool.
They need to get Evans back. I guess the walking boot has come off already, so Rider fans will be excited to see that one. And Charleston Hughes returning to practice for Toronto. It appears that he's been limited, and he did play a bit of a coaching role in their last game against Hamilton. And if the D-line performs like that against Saskatchewan, maybe they're going to want to keep him as a coach.
Yeah, that could be a possibility. Yeah, right.
Yeah, they want him on the field. As for Kean Schaefer-Baker goes, he had 7 catches for 73 yards against Winnipeg. So if he's at that boundary wide receiver spot again, it's an important part in the offense, and the Rough Riders like to look that way. Maybe there's going to be some production for him against Toronto at Mosaic Stadium. All right, BetRegal.ca telling me that the Alouettes are 1.5-point dogs against the BC Lions. This is an intriguing game. The over-under set at 49.5 right now. BC has won 4 of their last 5 trips to Montreal, starting with the Alouettes, where Kahari Jones has tested positive for COVID-19, so he's not going to be on the sideline for the Owls. I'm wondering how this is going to affect that team. He's just their emotional leader on the sidelines right now. He was away from the team. I think he went home to Vancouver for the bye week, picked it up. Who knows if it was on the flight or whatever. But assistant head coach and running back coach Andre Bolduc will coach the team on Saturday. They're wanting to see if maybe he can call plays virtually. It is possible, but I think they're going to miss his presence. I don't think it's
allowed.
Oh, okay.
Because, we saw that Labor Day, Lane Kiffin was not with the team. He could talk to, and this was in NCAA, he could talk to the team and everything prior to the game. Right. But once they took the field, there was no communication, including halftime, I believe. Okay.
I'm wondering if they're going to miss his presence on the sideline.
I think throughout the week, you have virtual meetings and everything, but it's just not the same. It's really hard to pay attention. I don't know how kids did it for an entire year in school with virtual. It must have sucked.
I couldn't do it in person.
No, it was the worst. Obviously, that's why I'm working 13 hours from home as a schlub and hating life, but probably should have paid attention. But, when you have your head coach and, like you said, emotional leader on the sideline, he wears his emotions on his sleeve, the guys seem to be willing to run through a wall. Yeah. For Kahari. I think this team takes on a totally different look. It totally disrupts their game prep this week, and I think it's going to be a huge deal for the Alouettes.
It does appear that the bye week was good for the Alouettes. They were able to get healthy here Mm-hmm. And I think this is a big game for BC and a big opportunity for them. It kind of seems like people are just kind of forgetting about them when it comes to the West standings. But right away here, they're going to fit right into that conversation at competing for a home playoff game.
Yeah, and I mean, at the start of the year, it was kind of like, well, we got to wait and see. Like, we knew about Riley's elbow. But then you look at that receiving core with Brian Burnham, Lucky Whitehead, Lamar Durant, Dominique Rhymes. Like, these are guys that can put up numbers. And now that Riley is, what do we call it, 75, 80%? I don't think he's at 100. I mean, he's been limited in practice every week.
They were worried about him in warm-up last week, too.
Yeah. But, I mean, these are guys that put up numbers. They have Michael Riley at quarterback, who is starting to look like Mike Riley. And they're putting up points. They're moving the ball down the field. I know it was Ottawa last week, but still, it's not that easy to score points in this league. So, them being ahead of Saskatchewan in the power rankings, everybody bitching about it. It's like, well, it makes a lot more sense in Saskatchewan being 2 or 3.
As long as Lucky Whitehead keeps wearing that multicolor hat with like the propeller on top
and riding that bike.
Yeah. I gotta see more of that. And it seems like more guys keep appearing and contributing in the offense for BC. Keon Hatcher had a touchdown last game. It was a CFL debut. And we've seen it with Riley before. If he's going and they're able to protect him, he's going to get all of these receivers going. They're all going to get their fill. They're all going to get fed.
The list in the CFL, like Bo Levi Mitchell, Michael Riley, you could throw Dane Evans in there now. Zach Loris to a point. I mean, He's put up numbers this year, which has been astounding considering what we thought their offense was going to be. But, there's a small group of guys, if you give time, their entire offense just totally changes. And that can be said for any quarterback, but I mean, those 4 especially, like it's night and day. And like you said, Michael Riley gets everybody involved. He spreads the ball out. Like Keon Hatcher, I would be astonished if anybody put him in their lineup last week. Like guys like that kind of coming out of nowhere and getting points. Like, I mean, that's what Michael Riley can do with an offense.
Since Javon Catoy has gotten into the lineup, to be fair, both games were against the Ottawa Red Blacks. 9 catches, 162 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
All I hear is that they're undefeated with Javon Catoy in the lineup.
Yeah, we haven't seen Lamar Durant at practice yet. He's going to keep being able to get into the lineup and making his case.
Yep.
And that big receiver, I love watching this guy play. Especially, it doesn't seem fair when he ends one-on-one with a quarterback in the open field trying to tackle this guy. It doesn't seem like a good situation for the DB.
No, not a situation I want to be in. He's averaging 6.8 through his career, 4.5 against Montreal. Not gaudy numbers, but if he's going to be consistently part of this offense, those numbers are going to go up.
The Montreal Alouette defense has been giving up a 106 yards a game on the ground. Can the Lions get Shaquille Cooper going in this one? There have been moments where they've had to back him up and recover some of his fumbles, but he does present a pretty good value on CFL Fantasy. He's just over $5,000. He did have 9 carries for 41 yards last week. We would like to see him get more involved in the receiving game and maybe getting some more balls closer to the goal line, but of course that is Michael Riley territory.
Yes. With Shaq Cooper, I mean, James Butler, full practice on Tuesday. He's coming back healthy. Don't know if he's going to get in, but, I mean, the running back situation gets a little crowded. You still have Chris Rainey there, too. I mean, return game, he kind of be somewhat of a scat back. I just don't see somebody being, the bell cow. for this offense out of the backfield right now. Nobody's stepped up and taken that spot. And been consistent.
My PVR is set for this game. I cannot wait to watch it. And part of the reason my PVR is set is because I'll be heading to Edmonton to watch Swaggerville 2.0 head to Commonwealth Stadium.
And Elizondo will be the first coach in Elks history to go 0-4 at home.
The Elks 8.5-point underdogs. Some teams had a very home-heavy schedule to start the season, and it has not benefited Edmonton at all. 0-3, just... I don't understand how you can perform the way you did on Labor Day at McMahon Stadium and then perform like that in the rematch. They just haven't looked good there for some reason.
When the Riders performed like they did in the Boundary Bowl, that was expected.
Right.
Edmonton was Jekyll and Hyde Labor Day in the rematch. It was not good. Trevor Harris did not look like the Trevor Harris we saw Labor Day. Nobody got anything going, really. It was just... It's not a good look, and I just don't see that improving against the Bombers.
Derek Moncrief is set to make his debut at Sam linebacker for the Elks. Their defense isn't the issue. The defense keeps them going in every game. But it's just a matter of, can the offense stay on the field? Because they're just not doing that right now. This is a remarkable stat. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers defense is allowing 5.6 yards a carry. That is the worst mark in the CFL. It does appear that, and Toronto proved it, that you can run against the Bombers. Even Saskatchewan was doing it with William Powell in the Banjo Bowl until the Bombers pulled away.
Yep.
James Wilder Jr. should be being fed that rock quite a bit on Saturday.
Yeah, averaging 14.7 and his 16.7 against Winnipeg. That is astonishing considering who Winnipeg had on that defensive line when James Wilder was, getting the bulk of his carries with the Argos.
Right.
They had Jeff Coat, Jefferson, and Drake Nevitt. The fact he puts up those numbers is astonishing. Does he not still have he still doesn't have a rushing touchdown, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, which is, how does that happen?
Right, and he's at the top of the league, and what is happening with this offense? The Edmonton offense, the fact they're not performing makes no sense. You have the leading rusher in the league, James Wilder Jr. You have arguably the best receiving core with Darrell Walker, Greg Ellingson, Tavon Smith has been getting into the lineup. Mike Jones has been getting a lot of looks. Ernest Edwards and Jalen Tolliver come in to fill in some spots there in Labor Day in the rematch. It doesn't make any sense how this offense isn't finishing drives, how they're not scoring points. This is mind-boggling.
It is worth noting that Kwaku Boateng did not practice on Tuesday for Edmonton. Other than that, they are actually looking pretty healthy. As far as Winnipeg goes, that's going to be a situation that fantasy players are going to need to watch. Here's the deal. O'Shea does give his vets practice off, but
it doesn't say that. It just says what their injury is, and then says did not practice.
So maybe these are more serious. Yeah. Andrew Harris, Darvin Adams, Nick Dembski all didn't practice on Tuesday, and they're all players that have missed games this season. So those are situations to watch, but also...
And Rashid Bailey was limited.
Yeah. Maybe Kyrie Wilson finally gets into a game this year. Drew Wolotarski didn't practice. Defensive lineman Steven Richardson, Jake Thomas, Jackson Jeffcoat. I don't think all these players are going to miss. They were in two very physical games against the Rough Riders on Labor Day and the Banjo Bowl. Maybe O'Shea's just giving these guys some vet days a little bit, and clearly those vet days do work for Winnipeg. Yeah. So I'm not going to argue with the system. I don't think that's even up for debate. They are situations to watch, yeah.
If Adams, Dembski, and Bailey can't go, that bodes well for Kenny Lawler, does it not?
It does. And as it is, he's been seeing a ton of targets.
Yeah. Zach Collaros might throw the ball 25 times, and Kenny Lawler will be targeted 30 of them if these guys don't go.
Picking Zach Collaros, I don't know if I can do it in this game. The Elks have averaged 202.8 passing yards given up a game. That is the best pass defense in the CFL as of right now. But that's not the problem with Collaros. The problem is once they get to the goal line and then the backup quarterback, Sean McGuire, comes in.
And he's only $5,000 this week.
Are you picking him?
He was in my original lineup, yes.
I played with that idea as well. It might be something to watch. Now, last week I was pretty rattled because I had Collaros and Harris, and I guess I should have saw it coming. I was like, well, maybe they'll give at least one of these balls to Andrew Harris, but no, like if they're at the 3-yard line,
why let Harris get touchdowns so that he can make more money next year? Come on.
Sean McGuire, 5 rushing touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. He's got 8 carries for 8 yards.
Yeah, I like those averages.
Yeah, when you're carrying the ball,
do we start calling him Touchdown Sean?
Maybe.
Sorry, Jake, but
yeah, sorry, Mr. Winicky. Sean McGuire's got that. That now, and he's also got 1 pass completion on 1 attempt for 50 yards. So.
50 yards, just a perfect passer rating, not a big deal.
Now, Winnipeg, I'm not exactly sure if they want this game to be close because of the issues they've been having at kicker.
Yeah, they need to start figuring that out.
So they have had a new kicker practicing this week. Ali Mortada is his name. And by the way, his Twitter handle, Ty, Hakuna Mortada.
Yep, give him MOP right now.
This is going to be a physical game. It's going to be a physical battle. It's all about whether the Elks are going to show up at Commonwealth Stadium. Like, I don't know. Does Elizondo have to put him in a hotel and say, okay, we've seen hockey teams do this in the playoffs. Even if they're at home, they put them up in the hotel and treat it like it's a road game because they've just been playing better on the road for some reason. Edmonton's got to figure something out.
Yeah, put them at the Sutton place where, during the bubble, the AC quit. Put them in there.
All right, Ty. The Canadian Football Podcast Network Fantasy Challenge this week. I had a big win against Andrew from the Turf District, 2-4.
And he still came on the show.
Yeah, he did. Props to him. Now I'm up against Rod from the Wood Cookie Sawcast this week. He's 3-3, so I'm going to have an opportunity to move up in the standings here. What's your fantasy roster looking like at this point in time?
Michael Riley, DJ Foster, Andrew Harris. I mean, I'm waiting for depth charts, basically, that could change to James Wilder Jr. in a hurry. Rashid Bailey, because he's the only healthy receiver, it seems, right now that I could afford in Winnipeg. Javon Katoy, Curly Gittins Jr. at $2,500, and the Argos defense with $608 left over.
I really like your lineup right now. I'm looking at quarterback Nick Arbuckle, and the only reason I'm looking at him
is because he's going to throw 6 touchdowns.
I got Kadeem Carey and Shaq Cooper as my running backs, Ricky Collins Jr., Javon Katoy as my receivers, Tim White as my flex, and that Calgary Stampeders defense as my defense. I just see the defensive line in Calgary having 6 or 7 sacks.
That's just so much money for a defense.
It is.
That isn't playing Ottawa.
Hey, I spent a lot on Winnipeg last week, and they had double digits. If the Stamps get double digits,
that is also fair.
I'll be all right. I only had $53 left over. And I'm also going to be watching the Ricky Collins Jr. situation. He took a knee a few times last week against Hamilton. Mm-hmm. His knee is clearly still bothering him. But Nick Arbuckle likes to go that way. He had 8 catches against the Ticats. In week 3, he had 5 catches against the Bombers. If he's going to have 5, 6 catches or whatever, he'll produce in his return to Mosaic Stadium. Who are you picking to win the games? Because you're the same as me, it looks like right now. All road teams?
Road sweep. I don't like Stamps going against that Hamilton. I guess we call it an offense right now with David Watford. Doesn't bother me. Argos should beat up on the Riders the way everything's going. The Lions, I just don't see them losing this game. And the Bombers, I mean, the way Edmonton has played at home and played last week, it just makes sense.
Well, here's the question. Are you with Winnipeg minus 8.5 or no?
Yes.
Wow.
Because, Sean McGuire is going to score 3 touchdowns again. And Edmonton can't. I don't understand how it's been 30 years and Edmonton can't finish a drive.
30 years? Hey, the over-under's at 38.5 for that one, too. Where are you leaning there?
Oh, man. I want to say
fair
over.
Line.
That's just begging for people to take the under.
It is. We got some good games. Week 7 coming up here.
And with it being double headers Friday and Saturday, I'm going to get to watch a lot of them, which should be fun.
All right.
I don't know how people live in the Pacific time zone and watch sports. It's the worst.
It has to be.
It is. The Jays game starting at 4:05 on a work. What?
Mountain is the best time zone when it comes to sports
It's not
viewing.
even close. Yep.
Yeah,
it's not even close.
This episode of Tune Out is brought to you by YAG Podfest, presented by the Edmonton Community Foundation in partnership with the Alberta Podcast Network and LitFest, Canada's nonfiction festival. Running October 1st through the 3rd, YAG Podfest will be held online this year, so anyone can tune in to experience it. Events include master classes with professional podcasters. We are not professionals. Panel discussions, feature interviews, and more. Some of APN's member shows will be there too, so join us for the virtual party from October 1st through 3rd. To check out the full lineup and to get tickets, head to yegpodfest.ca. That's YEG podfest.ca.
When you first said that, I thought you said YAG. And I was like, ooh, this sounds interesting.
I did say YAG.
No, but like JAG.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, party time.
Oh. Why did I not know that?
Man, I've only been in camp 2 days and I am ready to go.
I'm Travis Currah with Brazilian Ty. Enjoy Week 7. Throw us a rating and a subscription wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll talk to you on Monday.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.